Hello again and welcome to part 9, and in this video we're going to look at finishing the creating account implementation. In the previous video we started and we've completed the client side implementation of the creating a new account functionality, and in this video we will look at the server side and hopefully complete that. There shouldn't be much to do on the server side, so let's jump into it. And I have my project. So let's just look here in the networking. I have my socket client, just to remember where we got to. And I have the method here to register a user, which will create a new request of type register request with the user object that I want to create. And a user object contains a username and a password. And I just found out that if you click on something and Control-Shift-I, then you get this little overview of the class, so you don't have to swap to the other tab or actually go into the class. So this is pretty nice. All right. In any way, that's what we got to. I am sending a request to the server, and at some point I'm reading that from the server, some kind of response back, and we fire an event based on this. So the client side should be done, and let's take a look at the server side. I need to be able to react to the register request. So let's go and find the server and the networking part and the server socket handler. We have it here. So else if the request dot type is equal to this one, then we want to do something else. Just want to remove this here, so it's slightly simpler to look at. In response, the login results. That's probably okay. All right, so I get the same thing again. Actually, we're sending a user right from the socket client here. I send the user that I want to create, and then I want to say that was called game model. What type is that? That's a game model. Maybe I want a different model. Maybe I'll do that later on. We'll start with the game model. Game model, and I say register user. That's what I want to create, the method, and that should give me a result here. Register result of type string, which I can send back again. So and it's actually going to be pretty similar to that one. So with the register result, I create a new request that I want to send back, and this one is a register result. All right, so I just need this method. Now my server socket handler should be finished. I need this method here. I want to create it in the interface. Then I want to implement it. There we go. And I have my UserHome. So right, so we need to interact with that. I need to store that's just the interface, boring. Here we go. So I need to store the registered user in my list here. So for now it's just in memory, so whenever I reset or restart the program, then my user disappears. But at some point we'll swap it out with a file or something like that. So I have the find user, which I need to make public because I'm going to use that. Can I actually edit here? I cannot. So let's just go to this one All right, so the find user, I want that public. That should not take a username, it should just take a, because I don't use the user, I just use the I don't use the password for anything. So if username equals the username, there we go. Just made it slightly simpler. User there, you get username. All right. Okay. So here I want to first see if, does username exist? Then maybe we want to do something about, this is where I would do the validation of the user. Is the username correct? Is the password strong enough? That kind of thing. Let's just put a few validations just to see here. Is username larger than 3 characters? I also want this one. And if these two username, if these are okay, then I assume, because I also did some validation check on the client side, if you remember, in my view model here, we did a few initial input validation. Right, so the username cannot be empty and the password cannot be empty, and they must match. So I have already checked for this. That means my password could be just 1. Right? So not a very interesting password, so maybe I want some validation on that one as well. Is password longer than 5 characters? Right, and in the end, if I don't run into any validation errors, then I can just return OK here. So I have my UserHome, find user. I don't have that in the interface. Okay, so in-memory users, this one here, can I generate? I was hoping I could pull this up to the interface, but I just create my own public. That's not really necessary. We'll do this. Here we go. Right. So now my interface also has the functionality of finding a user. And we'll use that here. Find user with the user, get username, and that will return a found user. And this one can potentially be this one can be null if I don't find anything. So if found user is null, is not equal to null, then I will return username already exists. Okay, so that was this one here. Then we check if the username is longer than 3 characters. If user get username length is less than equal to 3 character, return username must be longer than 3 characters. We want to do the same thing with the password. Right, there was this one, and then the password, we'll just say password, and that must be longer than 5, and we say password. All right, So if I get to this point here, then I can actually create my user, put it in my UserHome here. I could of course insert more validation checks. Maybe the password need a upper and lowercase letter and numbers and characters and special characters like these guys or whatever, right? But that's not really interesting. I could always just add more validation to it if I need to. So for now, I think this will be okay. You get the idea. So I just need to add more if statements if I want to. So I have reached the conclusion that my username or my login, my user here is valid. So I want to put that into the UserHome. Register user with the user. There we go, and I create the method. And this one should actually return something, because maybe at some point this could cause some kind of error if I am changing it for a file storage at some point. Maybe there's an IO exception being thrown, which means that the result will be something else. So I want to create this, and I want to create the method here, implement methods, this one, and we just say users.add user, and in this case nothing can really go wrong, so I just return OK. Alright, so I think that should be it. This one will return, yeah, I can inline that. But no, I don't want to. Maybe at some point this method could throw an exception, and then I will have to catch it here. I don't know. We'll leave it as it is for now. So this one will return a string, some kind of results, and that's used from the server socket handler, and the result is wrapped in a request that I can send back again. Maybe I should have at some point made a class called response to send back, so I know requests are sent one way and responses are sent the other way, but that's a future refactoring. And we write that back. I left this empty. Maybe I just want to, because these should never be left empty. Then that can really be difficult to figure out what went wrong if something did go wrong. And I actually made a common mistake here that I see all the time, because my while loop is outside of the try catch. So that means that if I'm trying to read something from the client, and if that fails, because the client has disconnected, then this will throw an exception. We'll catch it, and then because of the while true, we'll try to read again from the client which is disconnected and throw an exception, and so on. So I want the try on the outside like this. There we go. And I think these are getting long, so I will just Control Alt M, handle login, and the same thing here. Control Alt M, handle register user, like that. And now it's a bit easier to see what's going on in here. All right. And I don't need these. I want this to be the argument on both of them. There we go. And then this one will be a user argument, and the same thing down here. Okay, so slightly simpler and more readable code, I think, now. All right, I guess it is time to run everything and see if we something happens. Let me just print something out here. User edit. So I should be able to register a new user and then log in with it afterwards. So let's give it a try. Just remove all this. So collapse these. Where do we run that one? First the server. All right, my server started and we go with the Battleship client. Here we go. Run this one. And we have it here. So let me just register a new one. I will call this I don't know, other tools. And maybe I should do something to test. What did I test on the server side, just to make sure that works? So I shouldn't be able to create one that already exists. So let's see. Username already exists, right? So that's not okay. Other tools. Just do this. And now it must be longer. Okay, so this is a bit inconvenient. Maybe we'll fix that later on. And the password. Let's try this one first. Does not match. Must be longer than blah blah blah. Can I actually? I cannot. Yeah, we will fix that at some point. And 56. So that worked. Other tools. And log in. And the login is okay. Swap to lobby view. Why does that come twice? I log in. Yeah, okay, that's not reset. Okay, maybe I'll look at that later on. But I think that concludes this part of the video. Now my register user functionality works. Yeah, thanks for watching.